From Sigma Woman, this is the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm your host, Clara McKay, your aligned business coach and advocate for all things showing up for your vision. This is a no BS space for brave-hearted women who are actually craving change. I'm dedicated to bringing women's visions into reality, equipping women with all they need to build an abundant future, and shutting down all of the ways that you keep yourself small. Here, we're all about a women-centered approach, non-negotiable value alignment, and making bank without compromising your well-being. Each week, you're already one step closer to your most aligned and abundant future. Welcome to this week's episode. We're doing a life update, and I haven't done one of these maybe for over a year. I don't know how long, but at least maybe 10 months. So if you've been listening here and you're just here for the business advice, you might be like, I don't give a shit about your life. I don't want to hear anything about it. Some of it will be business related, so it might be interesting to you. And I also just love hearing about other people's lives sometimes. And I have got feedback recently, which when it's beautiful, intentional, I will listen to it, is around that vulnerability piece, and I could probably be a little bit more vulnerable, and I do have a couple of episodes lined up to do that. And part of that is doing this life update, so just showing you a little bit behind the scenes. And I also think, as a service provider, which I am, if someone's going to be working one-to-one with me, it's nice to know what kind of person that person is. I don't think it's essential at all. I know nothing about my accountant's life, and he's great at what he does, provides me with the service that I require. But sometimes it helps. And I think especially for women, we can be a little bit more into that alignment piece. So here we are. Before we get into it, I wanted to remind you that I am booking out branding clients from April and beyond. Branding projects take up to 6 weeks sometimes. So if you were thinking about rebranding this year and you'd like a really strategic lens and someone to do it in a very resonant way, I would look at it sooner rather than later, and you can apply for that in the show notes. And as we're talking about this life update, I'm also going to be sharing a couple of pieces from my Substack in episodes later on. I just wanted to reintroduce you to my self-alignment workshop because it's something I haven't talked about for a while. Self-alignment essentially to me means knowing your values, unearthing them, and living life in a quite strict way, honestly, to embody them on a day-to-day basis. I strongly believe that unlocks a huge amount of confidence, success, manifestation, and abundance, but also it nullifies a lot of overthinking and it gets rid of a lot of analysis paralysis, because you stop entertaining all the rubbish and you just focus on the things that are really important to you. I have a workshop, which is 88 Australian dollars, to get you to work that out and start living in this way. It's a big reason why certain clients work with me, and it's a big part of feedback that I get. I am very disciplined in how I do this, and I need to find ways to communicate that more. I live my life incredibly strictly according to my values, and it has done the most, like better than any antidepressants, better than any therapy, better than exercise. It's been the single most thing to increase my confidence and make me love myself and feel more of myself. And that's something that I really love. And it's something that I've been writing a lot about. Is it's not about fixing you or changing you. It's actually about just making you more of yourself and making you appreciative of that, which is really beautiful. So if that interests you, and it will help you as a business owner, because if you have better values, you will have better boundaries, you will become less reactive, and it will also give you a really easy way to filter decisions in both life and business. Jump into that really gorgeous little workshop. Before we get into today's life update, I want to share a bit of feedback from Brenna, who's a beautiful massage therapist, and she's talking a little bit about that confidence piece. So let's get into it. She said, "My confidence has grown immensely, and I feel prepared to represent myself and my business in my community since completing the 10-week Aligned Business Intensive. By using the correct tools and having systems in place, it takes the everyday stress away and lets the business operate on its own. It feels really good to have a set schedule for 6+ months that holds me accountable and keeps me on track." That's Brenna, and that's her confidence upgrade after working with me. So if you resonate with that, I only have a few spaces left to do that this year. I've got some dot points in front of me that I usually have, and I want to talk about a couple of different things that are going on behind the scenes in my business and my personal life. And one thing that I wanted to address, which at some point I probably will go into it in deeper, if anyone's interested in me talking about projections, let me know and I'll do an episode on it because I've written an entire chapter on how to deal with them in my book that's coming up. But I thought it's really funny because recently end of last year, I worked with someone who just had developed a completely different understanding of who I am and really violently projected that on me in a once-off call. And I have to take a bit of responsibility for that because I don't share a huge amount of my personal life. I do that on my Substack, which is for me a personal creative channel, not a business channel, even though sometimes business trickles through there. But I had someone really project that I mean, this is the main projection that I get is people just thinking that I just work all the time and I have no life and I have no relationships and I just spend 24 hours a day working and that's how I've been able to have success. And that couldn't be further at all from the truth. But secondly, she had thought that I didn't have a partner and that I didn't care about love. I just wanted business success. And I just wanted to like set the record straight. I've been with someone for 8 years now. And yeah, no, that's incorrect. If anyone is running that projection, just because I don't talk about it all the time doesn't mean it's not happening. I would love to chat a little bit more about my partner because in the last year he started his own business and it's just been really interesting to watch how men go about it versus women. And it's really different. Like it's absolute stark contrast. And that's because of a lot of various reasons. But I'm going to probably talk about that at some point. And my partner is an architect and he's started his own firm. And yeah, just for the record as well, with any projections, no, he's never financially supported me or my business. Just setting that record straight. But I do obviously find it hilarious that people come up with these huge narratives about who people are just from Instagram. And that is one of the strategic reasons why I have this podcast. Because if anyone worked with me, I will say, please, for the love of God, go and listen to the podcast. Because if you've created some parasocial concept of who I am and it doesn't match up with who I really am, which you will find on the podcast, you're going to get a rude awakening on coaching. But I just think it's hilarious that people can run with projections in the way that they do. And I am a 3-5 generator with a projection field. So it's kind of part of my contract to be managing that. So just wanted to start off with that. But I want to talk about some recent wins and some big things and changes that are happening and some of the stuff that I'm really excited about. I am recording this on my first day back at work after a 3-week break. And I say it's a 3-week break, but I did have to jump into work one day a week during that break just to see my longer term clients. And at the end of that 3-week break, I took 4 days away solo on a reading retreat. And it's just crazy how much I need those breaks. And I think it takes being in business a while to understand those needs that you have. And after 10 weeks of intensive clients and ongoing clients as well, I just really need to tune out. And I even just need to be off of the internet for a long period of time. I could probably talk about human design and why I need that, but it's really, maybe it's for everyone, but I definitely feel like for me, I really need a lot of time just in my own energy and not taking on anyone else's in order to feel balanced and well and restored, and also in order to provide a good service. And if no one has ever told you this, or if you are a service provider, compassion fatigue is a really real thing. It's not a made up thing, it's a studied thing. It's often seen in caring occupations and teachers and things like that. And if you are working one-to-one with people and there's any element of needing to listen to their stories or trying to get them to do things and them having resistance, you will accrue compassion fatigue. And I find that I really max out at that 10-week mark, and I do actually need a break to rebuild my compassion stores. And that's not because I'm an asshole. That is a studied scientific process that psychologically happens to people who are in these kind of roles. So I feel restored, I feel replenished. On that break, I had the main goal of rest and restoration and replenishment. And I slept in a lot and I took naps and I did more meditation and more hypnosis and longer, slower walks and really didn't push myself at all. I did have some creative practices and projects that I was doing at that time, but yeah, mainly just chilling, just resting. Read a lot of shit books in that time, read a couple of amazing books. I think I read on my reading retreat maybe one of my favorite books of all time, which is The Men by Sandra Newman. And I have seen that it is a bit controversial. There's a bit of PC stuff around it, but my reading life is a non-PC zone. I don't care. My reading life is for enjoyment. So that's where I'm at right now. And I recently had a pretty big income win, and I'm going to explain it to you in a specific way because I'm just going to say it straight up. My last like proper paid role in the design industry, I was earning a little over $90,000 working 4.5 days a week. And I think I'd get 3 or 4 weeks off a year. And I honestly believe that was the most money I would ever make. And when I left that role, I genuinely, in my bones, believed that I would never be able to make that much money again. And I just want to say I've made more than twice that in less than 5 months. And that's working 4 days max, taking off. Like I've probably had like weeks off in that period and being offline Friday to Monday morning. So, babe, if you are running the concept that you've hit your income threshold, you really haven't. And I do want to hold this space for it being a financial crisis at the moment and cost of living crisis. My reality is I'm just making my own reality at this point, and it's working really well. I had that big income win. That's also meant that I got a call that I was waiting on from my accountant to say, you're earning too much money, you need to restructure your business. And this is, again, I'm just going to peel back the curtain a little bit. I was avoiding that restructuring for way too long because it's a bit of admin work, but I think also because it meant my business would be a really serious, real deal, which sounds crazy because I think most people who work with me know that I do take it quite seriously. But I grew up incredibly poor, and the concept of running my business in this way just always felt out of reach. And now it's happening and it's happening this week, and you just have to go with it. And getting that call, I'm getting sweaty palms thinking about it. It's a really positive, exciting thing to be earning so much money that you need to restructure, but it's also a big step up. And I'm not immune to fear, which I think a lot of you think I am. I'm not. And it's very scary and it's a big deal. And I think a lot of the time that happens in business, and it happens often with my coaching clients, that it can be incredibly scary and incredibly positive at the same time. And we need to build the capacity to be able to hold those differing aspects of what's going on. So I did buy myself a really beautiful, I did commission a bespoke ring, which I'll probably share at some point. And then that's it. Any more money I make this year is super uninvesting because I've been a bit naughty and I need to stop. Introducing Sigma Studio for aligned, considered, and resonant branding. We create beautiful and functional brands. We're offering branding for women-led businesses and creative endeavors. It's sustainably priced and via the strategic lens of a business consultant with over 5 years experience. We will visually speak directly to your ideal client. We've taken the time to listen and understand what you need to make running your business and creating content easeful. We give you everything you need and don't ask you to pay for anything that you won't actually use. We make beautiful, intentionally positioned brands that resonate with you and your clients to help you step into your highest power and grace as a business owner. But I also think, as someone who doesn't have kids and will never have kids, I am a little bit more frivolous at times, which I don't think is terrible because, yeah, I've made a choice which opens up a bit more finances for me. I have spent some of my break working on the second draft of my book. I don't know, some of you will know and some of you won't know that I've been writing a book. It is a self-help book for women, and it has a lot to do with that self-alignment piece. And that's all I'm going to say. But it is essentially a compendium of everything I've learned about how women work over the last 7 years. And a lot of it's a lot of like practical advice for accessing a better way of living that's going to be more supportive of you. And a lot of it is real talk. And I wanted to share again the fears and I don't know, you want to call them blocks, whatever you want to call them around it. This is something that's been in the back burner for 2 years that I've been dipping in and dipping out of writing this book. And I spent pretty much October to January just slugging it out and actually got that almost 100,000 word draft done. And now it's editing and it's culling and it's trimming it down. And a huge part of the reason why I kept avoiding it was that I knew a lot of what I would deliver would be really harsh truths. And a lot of people probably won't be able to take it. And I probably will get some nasty feedback. I'm certain I will, honestly. And I had a solar return astrology reading at the start of the year with Stephanie Powers, who I love. She had said that this whole year for me is about publishing and helping people through writing. And a huge part is I have to say what's true. I have to not try and be antagonizing, but the abundance is on the other side of me delivering that reality. And I've had just one person read a bit of it and I got really good feedback. And then she started messaging me about the changes she was going to make in her life just from one chapter. So I think that's really positive, and I'm really looking forward to putting it out there. I'm basically just doing some more editing and getting it proofread and deciding the cover or getting someone to design it. I haven't decided. Then I'm going to set aside a whole month to actually research self-publishing because there are a lot of do's and don'ts and best practices, and it's a whole new world for me. So I do want to expand for you in that. Just because it's new and it's different and it's scary and it's going to be really hard, you should set aside time to prioritize it if it's important to you. And I hope that you like the book when it comes out, and it will be being read in the book club. So you guys will, if you're in the book club, you're probably maybe going to read it. So yeah, it's a big thing, and I'm really glad that I've done it. And I want to say two things on it. I want to say that it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Like maybe VCE was hard, which is the end of high school, but university wasn't this hard at all. And it's been grueling to do it, but the feeling of having done it and got that second draft, 80,000 words manuscript that's making a bit of sense is the gift that I gave myself of giving myself the time and being dedicated and disciplined and committed to doing it most days is the best feeling that I could ever have. And even if not a single person reads it, not a single copy sells, it will be worth it for that. And I think a lot of you are missing that because you're not sticking to things for long enough and you're not giving yourself that feeling, which is one of the reasons why you're running your life on external validation. So that's, there you go. There's a little home truth. More of that in the book. I feel like the book is going to really support you. I've set it up in a way that really covers the main basis around not being yourself and how to be more of yourself, and then how to stick up for yourself when you start doing that, because the shit usually does hit the fan a little bit. And I think you're going to like it. I hope you're going to like it. I am also offering branding. So I've added on this new wing to the business, and you can go back and listen to episode 110 if you want to hear more on that. But that's really exciting to me. I've already started with a few clients and it's incredibly nourishing, and it's just crazy how easeful that work is, and we all need easeful stuff in our life and our business. If you don't know, I do also have a creative channel on Substack, which is purely personal, just from the nature of my work. Sometimes I do talk about the things I've learned through mentoring women on that channel, but it's generally a personal channel. And it's very self-alignment focused, living a life according to your values, embodying your values, being in integrity, having a beautiful life is all the stuff that I cover there. And it's fortnightly personal essays. So if any of you do happen to be like, oh, I would like to know more about this person, or you like this life update, you will like the Substack. It is free. You can pay for it if you want to support me, which is lovely. And I really appreciate it. But you also don't need to pay for it to read the essays because they're just helpful. And again, it's a funny thing. I'm seeing a lot of cognitive dissonance around Substack of people thinking that it's a replacement for Instagram, or a lot of people saying, I've quit social media, I only have Substack. And number one, I want to say, babe, Substack is social media. Don't get tricked by the branding of it. It is just another Instagram, it's just another TikTok, and it is just another platform that you have to create content to and you have to post to. And I do want to say, from being on it for I think since last October, I only got traction when I started posting every day. I've only started getting, I think I've got 250 followers from now, but I only saw an uptick in followers and likes when I posted on the feed multiple times a day, every day. If you're thinking, oh, I'm going to quit social media and I'm going to do Substack and it means I can do less, they're all the same. They're all about consistency and cadence and amount. So yeah, if don't go into the trap of thinking that it's going to be less work, because it's just doing the same thing in a different place. But anyway, enough on Substack. If you want to hear personal essays, jump on there. One of the last little pieces that I want to talk about, which I am really excited about, is we are moving, which won't do much for my business other than I'm probably going to have better lighting for my content, and the podcast is probably going to sound better because I will be recording in a smaller room with soft furnishings, whereas my house right now is the opposite of what you would want to record anything. And it's really interesting because it happened out of the blue, and it's one of these things that I've been manifesting actively for a while now. I would probably say since last January, so over a year. And speaking of that solar return reading that I went into, one of the things that I went into was that I was manifesting a move to the coast. Both my Vedic and Western astrology says that I really thrive being by the coast, and I desiccate and calcify and dry up when I live inland. And for the last 4 years, I've lived an hour and a half inland. And I think it has negatively impacted me, even though we live really close to a swimming pool and we live really close to a lake. On a metaphysical, energetic level, I don't feel like I can relax very well. And it's taken 4 years to really notice that, and to notice the kind of full body release that happens when I go near the coast, which sounds really dumb and sounds really privileged. But it's true. I've never lived away from the coast, and it's just not what my body knows. And I'm hoping that I'm really stepping into a different era, and it will be a lot easier. I can think of clients I have who are PTs who are like tisking at me right now when I say this, but it's hard to get the motivation to exercise when you live somewhere that's freezing cold, that's full of hills, and you're just surrounded by a really elderly population. And there's nothing wrong with an elderly population, but it's hard to get that motivation, that oomph to want to get out there. And that's something that I'm really excited about in this move, and living by the beach, 10 minutes walk from the beach, ocean views, is being more active and getting out there and running and getting back into the gym. And there's no like real Pilates studio or anything where I live here, and there will be many different options where we're moving. Yeah, the like exercise aspect of it is really great. I think spending even more time in nature, but a different kind of nature, is great. And also manifesting this perfect space for our dogs. They've got the dog beach 10 minutes walk from the front door, and they've got grass fenced in for the first time ever in their life. And I think they're just going to be really happy, and they're not even going to know what's hit them. But of course, moving is very destabilizing, especially for an autistic person. if an autistic person's ever going to have a mental breakdown, it's probably going to be around moving, because of the change in routine is just really hard for us to process and deal with. So that's a lot. And we also did it really quick bang. So I'm just going to share a little bit about manifestation and that kind of stuff. And I've been doing active manifestation work since 2017, and I will link the brand, the company, the woman that I do it through, which is To Be Magnetic. I think a lot of you already do it, but I'll link it in the show notes. And we got this call of, yeah, when your lease runs out, you're going to have to leave. There's no option to continue the lease. And our lease actually runs out in June. So we would have had a few months to get organized. But the way that it had played out was a bit unethical to me and a little bit sneaky. And so I really wanted to just not pay this person any more money than I had to, because I don't like it when people act unethically or immorally. It really gets my goat. And so we then started the hunt, and there was a lot of stories around it being a rental crisis, and it's an hour and a half drive to where we're moving to. So it's a lot of driving to go back and forth to see places. And it was just a lot. And I think it's a real testament to the self-work that I've done over the last few years and a lot of the self-regulation, because I know myself even 12 months ago or 2 years ago, I would have had a close to mental breakdown about this, just because of the stability and the safety being removed and the limbo of not knowing where you're going to live. And I would say becoming homeless is one of my biggest fears that has always been a track in my whole life, which is fair because I left home when I was 15 and I didn't at all. I was just angry, a little bit angry, processed it. All right, not move on in terms of repressing it, but just like, it's going to be okay. Take deep breaths, do more meditation, do more hypnosis, do more physical exertion and exercise when I was feeling that upregulated to process the stress. And within 5 days, we had secured the first house that we applied for. And the street number and the postcode is my lucky number. One thing I have learned through doing manifestation practices actively for so long is that I manifest quite late. And I really had visioned this outlook, this ocean view outlook, when I was visioning and manifesting a coastal move back in 2019. So I always get what I want, and I often get it better than I want, but I do get it really late. So that's something that I've worked out. But knowing that I understood how stress worked and being able to jump on the Peloton bike or go out for a fast walk if I was feeling really stressed, but also having my restorative yoga practices and my meditation and hypnosis practices to lean back on. A big thing I did in this time is just drink a week decaf coffee once a day. And I only usually have a 1 week coffee anyway, but making it decaf, just super supportive, just all these little things that seem really silly, but actually are highly supportive, have really helped me through this period. I would say a big thing that I am manifesting is that more creating extra income streams that are allowing me to tap into my creativity and moving through that block of thinking that I can't make money from my creativity. And a big part of the self-work kind of practices that I've personally been working on is my energetic boundaries, which might sound silly because a lot of people who work with me would know that I am highly boundaried and my boundaries are very well communicated, very well upheld, and have consequences. But energetically, I was doing a few things that was sending mixed signals to the universe. Things like looking at social media on a Saturday morning, on the computer, on desktop, doing a little sneaky because I knew that I can't look at it on my phone because it's blocked. Things like checking my emails on my phone when I shouldn't even have my work email on my phone. That's silly. Things like, yeah, sleeping in, not doing my workout that I know I want to do, avoiding certain things that bring me into alignment. And I've really realized that being very disciplined, and I am quite disciplined, but I'm nowhere near disciplined as a lot of other people, is what I need to come into my highest expression. So my word for this year is dialed in, and that's everything that I'm doing is about really showing up in every aspect as that person who does the things that they know helps them and that they need to do to feel their best and be embodying their highest, most in integrity self. And some of that means doing more stuff, some of that means doing less stuff, and some of that also means giving things more time than they require. So at the start of the year, I was like posting on YouTube every week. And now I'm like, no, I'm actually doing a long-term video editing course and I'm learning about it and I'm doing it properly. And then that's probably going to come in the middle of the year and it's probably going to be fortnightly or monthly, not once a week. But I definitely in the past have had that bite off more than you can chew and then fall off, which most of you have. And it's nice to be a little bit more intentional and strategic and do things slower in a way that is aligned with my energy levels as well. All of that is to say, this is my life update. This is where things are at. There's nothing bad going on in my life right now. Everything's very positive. The move is going to be stressful, but it's not bad. And I feel like I'm really stepping into a new era that I'm really ready for. And I can see how it's going to support my clients and support me to give better service and be more inspired and more open and more relaxed. And I just can't wait to bring it to you. I know this episode's very different to what you're used to hearing. And if you're interested in any of it, send me a message. If you hated it and you're like, please never do that again, send me that message as well. I want to hear it. And I won't tell you off. I'll say thank you. And I'll probably give you a heart emoji. And yeah, that's it from me. It's all good. I hope everything's really good with you as well. I hope that even if things are a little bit unstable, they feel like you're moving in the right direction. I know you are. You've got this. We've both got this. And I'll be in your ears next week. If you can't tell, getting to share this time with you is something that I find truly sacred. I know that you're busy, but if you've taken anything away from our time spent together today, could you extend the love and share this episode with a friend, your community, or on your socials? Tag me so that I can see it and I can share it too. Or when you have a spare moment, leave the podcast for a review. These things cost you nothing and will mean so much to me. Let's get this resource into the hands of more women visionaries and help us collectively move towards our most aligned way of being and doing business together.